Tuesday, March 25th, 2025. And of course, we've got a lot of stuff going on in the world. I'll be telling you about that. And then later on, maybe some of the panelists will be joining us as well. Israel strikes kill 23 at Gaza or in Gaza as military expands evacuation orders. Children are among the dozens killed as Israel pounds Gaza from the north to the south. And Hamas is said to have responded positively yesterday to the Egyptian proposal. But we'll see how this all goes on in that conflict as well. And there's still conversation about how a cheap drone punctured Chernobyl steel shield during the Ukraine war. So definitely a couple of days ago, or almost a week ago, the EBRD Nuclear Safety Department director saw damaged shelter arch at Chernobyl NPP. So definitely that is something going on in that conflict. And in Germany's new parliament, women are a rarer sight, and new German Bundestag meets for the first time since the election. So the German parliament sits for the first time with AFD as the main opposition. So definitely it looks like the far-right wild card, Maximilian Krah, has joined the Bundestag. So we'll see how this all plays out in German politics. And the Japanese court has disbanded the Unification Church in the wake of the Abe killing. So Japan court orders controversial Mooni's Church to disband. So Tokyo courts ordered the dissolution of Mooni's Unification Church, and definitely we'll see how that plays out and how that impacts that church even nationwide. A comedian told a joke about a politician. Now he's under police investigation. That's what's going on in India. So Kanal Kamra, an Indian comedian, won't apologize for a joke that angered Eknath Shinde supporters. So definitely that's going on in that space. So sometimes even comedians in other countries can get themselves in trouble as well. And Turkey arrests AFP photographer as Erdogan's crackdown builds. So protests in Turkey over Istanbul mayor's detention, and we need to know about their turmoil as well. Turkey police have arrested dozens for insulting Recep Tayyip Erdogan and his family. So in photos and videos, Turkey cracks down on protests after Erdogan rival is jailed, and that's been going on now for a few days. And the world's longest-serving death row prisoner was awarded 1.4 million after acquittal. That's $85 for each day, and that was in Japan. So Japan grants 1.4 million to a record-breaking death row inmate. So record payout for world's longest-serving death row inmate. So that is something going on, as apparently that gentleman was exonerated, and he has now got that kind of money to deal with his exoneration and all along those lines. So a lot's going on in that space. And the Ukraine war, Russia accused of hollow talks as strikes hit Sumy. So dozens injured, including strike in on Ukraine as U.S.-Russia talks have resumed. U.S. accuses Moscow of hollow statements about peace after the latest attack and all along those lines. And Al Jazeera journalist Hossam Shabbat was killed in the Israeli attack on Gaza. So it looks like Israel kills Al Jazeera and Palestinian Today journalists in separate attacks in Gaza. So press freedom groups condemn targeted killing of two journalists in Israel strikes, and that was reported a few minutes ago. So definitely we've got a lot going on all over the world, including No Other Land filmmaker Hamdi Balel detained by Israeli forces as well. So like definitely a lot's going on in the Middle East conflict. Let's see what's happening in the United States, and then we'll bring Nick in and see if other folks join us as well. By the way, apparently there was an accidental texting of war plans. So the Trump administration accidentally texted me its war plans was an article in The Atlantic, and Trump defends the National Security Chief Waltz after signal text about Houthi strikes was sent to a reporter. So Walt's future is in doubt following an accidental war plan leak. But Trump apparently is standing by his national security advisor, Mike Waltz, despite Waltz disclosing those military secrets. And Colombia student hunted by ICE sues to prevent deportation. So Colombia protester Yan Su Chung sues the Trump administration to prevent deportation. So definitely Colombia student protester who's lived in the U.S. since age 7 sues to stop her deportation order. So we'll see how that all plays out and what happens in that particular case. Intelligence leaders will testify before Congress, fresh off the group chat fiasco. So definitely, it looks like there'll be some conversation about that as Gabbard, Tulsi Gabbard, Patel, and Ratcliffe will be testifying on global threats. So definitely, we'll see how this all goes around as well. And apparently, there are also Social Security nominee hearings, and of course, there's a lot more going on in the world as well. So we'll see all of what folks got to go say, including the U.S. visit to Greenland, is unacceptable, the Danish prime minister says, and Trump's moves on Greenland appear to be backfiring. So Greenlanders unite to fend off the U.S. as Trump seeks control of the Arctic island. So it looks like he still is looking for that, and some people even on MSNBC are saying Yusha Vance's undiplomatic diplomacy in Greenland is outright weird. So we'll see if others agree with that or not. And Trump administration invoking state secrets privilege over deportation flight information. So the Trump Department of Justice invoked state secrets in the Trin Diaraga deportation case. So judge has maintained a block on Trump administration's deportation under wartime law. So we've got a lot going on with this deportation stuff going on as well. And Trump is pledging auto and the pharmaceutical tariffs in the near future, sowing more trade confusion. So Donald Trump is considering a two-step tariff regime on April 2nd. So definitely it looks like Trump's tariff bomb has left some businesses in the dark as they're trying to figure out what to do about that. And the U.S. Postal Service head DeJoy has resigned. That's Postmaster General Lois DeJoy, who quit after 5 years in the position. So he steps down as the Trump officials are considering a Postal Service overhaul. So we got all kinds of things going on with that. And Canada is holding an election that will be the first for its prime minister. So we'll see who could be Canada's next prime minister and how they will be chosen. So apparently Trump is the Canadian Liberals' best friend. So we'll see what goes on in that space and who wins in that particular election. And it looks like the crisis on college campuses might be affecting students. So universities sprint from "we will not cower" to appeasing Trump. So definitely, it looks like the students are actually might have their privilege kind of changed because it says, according to Vox.com, a longtime target of the Trump is finally buckling under Trump pressure. So we'll see if that is the case or not. Doctors still seeking a cure for brain cancer that struck former Utah Representative Mia Love. So former Utah Rep Mia Love, the first Black Republican elected to the U.S. House, died on yesterday, and she had been fighting a long-time battle with brain cancer and all in that space. So doctors are still trying to do research on that. And West Virginia has banned 7 artificial food dyes, citing health concerns. So definitely they're citing the harmful health effects of some of those food dyes. As a matter of fact, the picture I'm looking at on the computer and everything is showing it looks like what might be some Cheerios or something like that. So I guess it's some of the food dyes that might be in some of those foods as well. And the IRS is sharing immigrants' data with ICE, and that threatens billions in tax revenues. So ICE is nearing a historic deal with the IRS to aid in deportations. So a group of senators have slammed Trump administration over a reported plan to show sensitive taxpayer data. So that's one of the ways that they might be trying to find the folks that are here in that sense and all along those lines. And Columbia faculty holds an emergency vigil to protest university response to Trump. So definitely it looks like Columbia's president faces angry faculty in a closed-door meeting on yesterday. And Columbia's interim president privately told faculty there was no mask ban, despite telling the Trump administration it would be enforced. So definitely we'll see how this all goes in that space as well. And fired federal workers face choices now that a judge wants them rehired. So Trump administration asked Supreme Court to block ruling reinstating thousands of fired probationary federal employees. And Trump saying any country buying Venezuelan oil will face a 25% tariff. So if you're a country and you're buying Venezuelan oil, I guess you're going to face a 25% tariff, according to the President of the United States, Donald Trump. So oil rises for 5th day on supply concern after that Venezuela tariff. And the House is to hold hearings next week on activist judges blocking Trump agenda. So we'll see if this is going to impact things as well. So, and it looks like the Supreme Court is confronting another challenge to the Voting Rights Act. So, the Supreme Court just put the Voting Rights Act in its crosshair again. So, justices seem likely to uphold the Louisiana map with 2 majority black districts. But we'll see how this all plays out in that particular situation as well. And the Democratic Party has no grassroots. Bernie Sanders on how to fight President Trump. So Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez are supposedly fighting the oligarchy, according to some of their conversation points, and all along those lines. So definitely, it looks like on fighting the oligarchy terror, Bernie Sanders is channeling the Grateful Dead. That's what the New York Times says. So, but Bernie Sanders is drawing record crowds as he pushes Democrats to fight oligarchy. And a second woman was strangled during an overnight visit at a California prison. We want justice. Another woman killed during a conjugal visit with a murderer. So, infamous LA murderer accused of killing a wife during a prison visit, and all along those lines. So, definitely, we've got folks that are having some interesting stories, including the fighting Western North Carolina wildfires, a nightmare due to Helene damage to roads and downed trees. So we've got a lot going on in the world. So I'm going to bring in my good friends, Rick Rosner and Nick Palveda. We'll see if others join us as well. I guess the question I've got to ask y'all is what's going on with Mike Waltz accidentally releasing texts that apparently are war secrets and everything like that. So apparently Trump is standing by him. But I don't know if y'all have.
All right, so the left on X is saying resign. So these people are shameless. The Hegseth paid some lady, a mom, 50 grand because she claimed that he drunkenly sexually assaulted her in like a hotel jacuzzi a few years ago. A guy who is going to pay off. That guy doesn't have a lot of shame, so this is not going to make anybody resign.
Nobody's going to resign. What's your take on this, Jacoby? And I think our boss has got, Nick has got that whole Mickey Mouse thing going as well. But what's your take on this whole notion and everything like that? And there's another story that I know you'll be interested in, but first I want to hear that I didn't get to. Your thoughts about this whole notion of some leaked tapes or leaked information about the Houthi attacks. And of course, there's people that want Mike Waltz to resign.
Well, Mike Waltz is going to take the fall. That's what's going to happen because he was the one that added the reporter into the actual discussion. So somebody has to take a fall. It's going to be Mike Waltz, even though Pete Hegseth is the one that actually broke the law by using a unclassified or a unsecure line to basically talk about war plans and do all this other stuff. This is what they called it, which is true. It's amateur hour. This is a clown show. This is actually a whole problem with this administration. They don't know what they're doing. Hence the reason why you have all these swings in the stock market, because Trump is just going on with whatever he says, or with this, by the seat of his pants. Oh, I want to do tariffs today. Well, maybe an hour later, I don't want to do tariffs. So it's truly amateur hour. These people don't know what they're doing. We have a measles outbreak that's now growing. Well, it's actually an epidemic now. It should be considered that because, Rick, correct me if I'm wrong, we're actually past 500 cases now across the U.S.
I don't know what the marker is for epidemic.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is we passed the 500 marker, I think, already. Plus, there is another death they're investigating. So now you have they're actually throwing in a new CDC director because the first one that they chose had to be pulled from it. But again, Linda McMahon has no idea about education. She's dismantling the whole department. They asked her about the she had no idea about that program, part of the education. But this whole Pete Hegseth thing, and yeah, like I said, Mike Waltz is going to take the fall. They're going to move on because people didn't want him there in the first place. They've been wanting him to resign for some of the things that he said, which is crazy. But again, it's all they can't. Here's the funny thing, Mark. They can no longer say, but her emails. 3 years on an email scandal, and this is worse.
Yeah, but we're all just saying like liberal talking points, and it won't change a whole lot.
Now that makes sense and everything.
I actually have to agree with Rick. All you guys are doing is spouting off liberal talking points. And so the thing is, all this stuff will be forgotten by tomorrow. But I did listen to AOC and Bernie Sanders and the Democrats. And the Democrats only have this. They have no message at all except they hate Trump. Big, bloody deal. They have no message. And they need to create some sort of flag to rally around, like, bring back the middle class. Something that people will do that. But here's your message over and over again, which is one reason you're going to continue to lose over and over again. We have no message except we hate Trump. Big deal. So, you're never going to win with that. It's just a losing cause. My recommendation is to resign from the Democratic Party and become independent.
Well, that's
Nick, I will agree. I will say this, Nick. What you're saying about the narrative of the message, yeah, the Democrat Party really doesn't have a narrative on their message yet. This is why I said yesterday or the day before, and I've said multiple times, the Democrats need to play like Republicans. They need to go ahead and have those three key things they keep always pivoting to. That is their message. What we're going to do in the future. This is what the economy is. This is what we're going to do for the economy. This is where we're going to go. Because yes, the narrative right now is the only thing they have is we hate Trump. Even though they have other things, but it's not a coherent message that is distilled down, that's made easy for people to actually repeat and parrot. That's what the Republican Party does so well, is that they've dumbed down their message so easy that they parrot it and create a boogeyman out of nothing. They've manufactured everything, but they've narrowed it down to just this easy bumper sticker talking point that people parrot. Last night I was watching a show, for example, and it reminded me, because there was a young lady who brought up and was talking about the idea of Make America Great. She said that she wasn't going to use the term again because in her eyes, America was never great. That reminded me of what Michelle Obama said at one point, where the Republican Party manufactured so much hate around her because she did not say that America was this shining thing on the hill. Well, to point out the facts, America wasn't great for Black people. It hasn't. Because we haven't even had equality to a point where we can say we're paid the same as white people. So her point was that in her perspective, there was that issue. But the Republicans
you're already in the weeds. You're already in the weeds.
I'm not in the weeds. I'm actually talking about the point. The weeds are the message, what Nick said. What that Republican took from her little perspective was to negate everything that she was actually trying to focus on and just distill down that she hates America. And that is how the Republican Party really messages stuff. They manufacture, create a boogeyman, and distill it down to something easy people can empathize.
But we know that. So the Democrats need a message that says, while the Republicans are distracting you with incompetence, they're also picking your pockets.
But that's too wordy. You need something simple, like strengthen the middle class. Something so simple like that. Okay, and here's the real problem. The reason the middle class is being torn apart. This is just a stat. 50% of the United States has 2.8% of the assets. Okay, that is not a good stat, especially when you look at the top 1%. Has 31%. Okay, and so when you're looking at this stat, if you just look at the demographics, I think most people believe they're in the middle class. Okay, which has been decimated by the Reagan policies all the way till today. And so what happens? We end up with this: 1% owning 31% of all the assets. Those are the people I associate with. Those are the people I work with. The reason why? They have money. Sorry. Here's who doesn't have money. And this is a real problem for me because it's hard to expand my market. 50% of the USA has 2.8% of the assets. They're bloody broke. So most people probably identify themselves with being middle class, and of the middle class, half of them are completely busted. So the thing is, you need to bring strengthen the middle class, something real simple like that. If you go into I hate Trump, you're not going to win. If you go into this lengthy dissertation that Rick was going through, Rick, you're talking to middle school people, okay? You got to be really, really simple. One thing good about the Republican Party, they're very simple-minded. And so they have these little slogans like "Make America Great Again." You know, Democrats
They also have
strengthen the middle class.
They also have think tanks. You hardly ever hear about Democratic think tanks, but you hear about the Hoover Institute. You hear about Project 2025. They have those people they have people at those places spending all day, every day, coming up with messaging.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. You know, the thing is, but you need something really simple, like strengthen the middle class. And then you bring your evidence forward, which is really, really, it's overwhelming. You know, if you look at this, the middle class has been destroyed, and it's continually being destroyed when you're looking at half of our population. You go into your church, take 50% of the people that are there, and they're busted, completely busted. And then one guy has a third of everything, and then the top 10 have the rest. I mean, it's just mind-boggling how bad it is.
I completely agree with what you're saying there.
Hey, tell me, why is the talent pool so weak in the Democratic Party?
Honestly, it's not weak. It's super strong. But again, we're explaining way too much. We're not thinking about the easy and the dumbed down, because the dumbed down, if you look at, again, the Republican Party messaging, is on a 5th grade level. It is so simplistic, and it's just easy to point out. They don't even have to actually give any explanation, because you even said bring explanation to the table. You don't really need it, because if you can get people to understand,
strengthen the middle class. Hey, speaking of middle class, Irene has joined us with Ken, and I love that show. I was watching it the other day, and it just boggles my mind. Irene,
see my T-shirt. Oh yeah, see her T-shirt.
See
her T-shirt.
Yeah, but the thing is, the economics, I've been going through the economics of timeshares, and I've talked to Kim about repositioning the annuities that we've been using for 23 years to allow rich people to retire. And I just wanted to check to make sure we could sell it to normal people, to reposition that and use that instead of a timeshare.
That's what he said. You do annuities instead of timeshares.
Kim, I've been using it for medical doctors and professionals for 23 years. And a lot of people have retired off them because, number one, you don't lose money. Number two, no commissions are taken out. Boy, that's good. So you only have profits. And when you look at the profits, here's what you do. Rather than throw money into a timeshare, which goes into the time hole of death, you throw money into an annuity, and guess what? It will pay you to go on vacation wherever you want. It's
the problem. There's one problem.
Yeah, you have to be over age 59 and a half.
No. You have to have money.
Oh yeah, I know that.
So they don't have any money. So they're financed at 17 to 19%.
Anyway. But the thing is, but you don't need that much. My calculation, if you have 10,000 or 25,000, you can spin off 1,000 a year for your vacation, or 2,500. If you don't have 10,000, you don't have 25,000. You know what you need to do? You need to leave the whole idea of vacations.
Well, hold on a second. There's protests going on. So
right.
Tell us about the protests.
So we're filming live in Kissimmee, Florida. We are here for the 2 timeshare company, but it's a huge ceremony for all timeshares where they're celebrating how great they are. And we did
Bentley's in the driveway.
Yeah, the Bentley's in the driveway. But the thing is that we were sitting there, and they even sent security to watch us. They like stared at us.
They were nice,
but we didn't do anything wrong. We weren't officially protesting. We decided just to do nice interviews. So we didn't like do the gotcha type stuff. We just did very nice interviews. We did the TV show, and they left us alone, but they did watch us because they were afraid we were going to cause a ruckus. But we do have news to report about a timeshare incident that's pretty scary. And I'm just going to tell people, in this day and time right now, because of all the hoopla going on with Trump, do not go to Mexico. Please do not go to Mexico. But we just received word that a couple going to Mexico for vacation got detained and arrested at the airport, and they're going to be in jail for a long time
Until the trial.
and it's over timeshares of which they had settled their situation
For $117,000.
of $117,000. And they said it was settled, but for some reason they decided to arrest this American couple and say, no, it's not settled. And it's going to take about 6 months for them to get the evidence that they need to prove it. So, right now I wouldn't travel anywhere out of the country that's going to where Trump is pushing nastiness and tariffs, like Mexico. Canada, they like the people. They have a little bit of common sense. I hate to say Mexico doesn't, but in Canada, they don't blame the people. They love us. They blame the president. So, but I would be very careful about any travel plans out of the country. Research it, make sure that you don't put yourself in a situation where they can just detain you for no reason.
Well, and I'd like to explain my t-shirt.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so we're here for ARDA's, the Timeshare Industry Lobby ARDA's Award of Excellence. And we have heard from 20 active duty service members recently that have their security clearances in jeopardy because of a timeshare loan default. A young couple with a 6-year-old, 10 years with the Idaho National Guard. Westgate sold them a 4-bedroom saying it's a rental investment. It's not. And so this young couple with a 6-year-old stuck with a 4-bedroom, $44,000. So the finalists for the Award of Excellence tomorrow is Hilton, Holiday Inn, Westgate, and Wyndham, well, anyway, 4 of them, but Westgate is sponsoring Paul Whelan, who is the Marine veteran who was released from a Russian prison. And surely he does not know about all of we have a Marine stationed at the Pentagon that has on a recording being promised a 4% interest rate because of the GI Bill. And so I've heard from over 300 veterans, and a lot of veterans keep their active duty, their security clearances active after they separate from service. So it's just out of control. And we have one person for the Award of Excellence. He's been driving up and down. He retired 23 years with the Baltimore Police Department. And he's been driving up and down by his seminar with a big sign in the pickup truck that says Wyndham Sales Lies. So after a year and a half on his way home, he finally got a call from the Wyndham Cares Department.
Yeah, he's outside of our hotel where we're at. Where we're doing the protest. And they called. We interviewed his wife, and they called.
Yeah, and he spent over $150,000 for 20 years. Told him, upgraded, said you should rent. Buy enough points to rent to offset your costs. It didn't work with Wyndham's program. He gets upsold again. Here's someone that will help you. So it worked. And he received a cease and desist letter accusing him of commercial activity. So we have 4 20+ year owners like that, members like that, including a 100% disabled veteran, that were very happy. And now they're forced to default at age probably around 70.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this to me shows what a bad deal these timeshares are, because when I'm looking at the tax deferred annuities, which I've used for pensions for 23 years, that what happens is they pay you. It sounds to me, or at least all I've been seeing, is that you continue to pay in to this crazy timeshare. And you're not talking small amounts, 150,000. One lady was on your show, 50,000. Do you know how much money you could roll up in a TDA with $50,000? So they're basically missing the bloody point.
So Nick says sell annuities as
but they borrow money to buy it.
Put in your bloody timeshare and put the money in a TDA. You won't lose money. You'll make money. If you don't take a vacation, it doubles and you have more money. But it's stupid. They'll end up paying you as opposed to you paying them. So this whole timeshare industry needs to go down the toilet as fast as I can send it.
Am I right in thinking that timeshares used to be a better deal for our parents' generation back in the 70s?
Well, I think they used to sell weeks.
Let me finish my question.
Yeah,
They've gotten more rapacious now? Is that the deal?
No. It used to, I call them your grandmother's timeshare. We owned at Maui Hill. We owned. So we had Unit 58, August 13th every year we had to check in. Okay, so you could see, feel, and touch it. So now then when the housing market crashed, they start pumping out these points and they want to beat you up and get your, so they're right to use, some are non-deeded, but they're arguing their real estate. So the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, not in 2024, ruled that a timeshare loan is not a mortgage loan, that a timeshare stay is not a residential stay because the Military Lending Act exempts home mortgages. Fannie Mae says it's not a mortgage. The NCUA says it's not a mortgage, and yet Marriott and Blue Green and Holiday Inn are saying we don't agree.
Why didn't the timeshare industry continue doing business on a more legitimate basis the way why did they turn into this freaking horrible thing?
Because Trump is in them now.
Because they can upsell. I have a picture of Donald Trump standing on the podium, and next to him is the owner of Westgate, David Siegel. And Westgate was investigated for 2 years, and then 30 days after the 2016 election, that investigation was dropped. So Mr. Siegel is a big fan of Mr. Trump.
Of course he is. Trump has also invested, his properties are partnered with timeshares.
Yeah, but
he probably taught them how to do it.
See, this is a hamster wheel of money. So they can upsell you to default, take it back. If it's non-judicial foreclosure, you don't have to go through all the inconvenience of going to court, and they buy it back for $1. And Hilton and Westgate and Holiday Inn, if I have a $50,000 loan and I default, it's worthless. So they buy it back for $1, sell it to somebody else for $50,000 tomorrow, then turn around and sue me for the $50,000 note.
So if you got
and correct me if I'm wrong, Irene, isn't Hilton not associated with
one
the
more
whole
question? If you got the shysters out of the timeshare business, is there ever a chance it would go back to being a non-exploitative business?
No, they automatically bill maintenance fees, $5 to $10. In 2010, ARDA, the lobbyists, not to be confused with TARDA, that's us, they were fined for not calling donations voluntary. So now what they do is they automatically bill a small amount. Mine's $7. If I go pay my bill, I don't see it, but I have to go to account history. They raise $5 million a year. And at an ARDA conference or a TBMA conference, the spokesperson for ARDA said, I have the Speaker of the House on my speed dial. I can call him anytime. So it's just a corporate bill mill where they can just, lawmakers and even judges, they don't understand timeshare. So whatever they say goes.
It switched to basically, it looks like an unregistered security. See, the thing is, when it originally started, it was you bought a week. And it's just like shared ownership. I've passed on all my shared ownership deal because I hate the thought of having to work with another person in a home. Although some of them look pretty good. They'll say, hey, you get a 25% of a house. You go in with a group and they use it 25% of the time. On timeshares, they did it a week at a time. Then it evolved into this point system, which no one can understand. But it's one-way money. It's money goes in. It's like the Roach Motel of money. Money goes in, nothing comes out. Now, in my industry, if you had somebody bought an annuity and you tried to replace it with another annuity, you actually have to fill out tons of forms because you have to make sure you do everything proper. But you know what? I can replace a timeshare with a tax-deferred annuity, and I don't have to fill out any forms. But here's the odd thing. The client will actually do better, because the thing is, they're not putting any more money in. Money will come out to them every year. And if they decide not to go on their vacation, it'll just roll up tax-deferred. It continually grows without it. And so we've been using it successfully in pensions for 23 years. There is a hook to it. It's 59, believe it or not, it is a tax-deferred non-qualified annuity, and you have to be over 59 and a half to take these distributions. If you're under 59 and a half, then you have to do systematic distributions for your life expectancy. You have to follow the IRS rules. Now, Rick, who has more money? People over age 59 and a half or less than 59 and a half?
Boomers own America.
Yeah, right. The old people own America. But see that what they're doing is they're being duped into these crazy timeshares, which they don't understand. And I went through all the materials. I've gone to a lot of their presentations at the Hilton. Where is it? They have the Hilton Head Island. Hilton Head Island. I don't even know who was doing it. But at the end of the day, I can't understand. I've been practicing law for 40 years. How's a regular person going to understand? They can't. Okay. All I do know it's the Roach Motel of money. Money goes in, doesn't come out. I don't like that.
I like
I like my money going in and money coming out.
Let me say, I like being hard sold. I like sitting down with somebody who really is trying to push me to do something and then not do it. I used to go get recruited by Scientology. It's the same. Scientology is the same thing as timeshare. You sit down with them and they say, you're all messed up. Don't you want to have your brain be optimized? And I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. And they get really pissed at you. They really push. It's the same as timeshare. You sit down with
they're salesmen.
Yeah,
timeshare.
My wife and I used to, back when we were poor, we'd sign up for timeshare meetings. You give them 90 minutes to make their sales deal. And at the end, they give you meal tickets for a nice brunch. And at the end, there's the hard sell. There's the deal that's going away if you walk away from the table.
Oh, yeah, right. And then if you come back, it's down.
No, and I always tell people that free gifts are not free. They're paid for by anybody that signs the contract. But we have to get to our protester.
Yeah. Go smack them. Go smack them up as much as you can. I want to replace all the timeshare list. I want to replace them with investments that they will not lose money.
But Nick, again, if to buy a timeshare, you need $500, and then you can get a $50,000 loan financed at 17%. But they don't have the rest. They don't have the amount over $500. Maybe up to $3,600.
You can do a 500 and put in 100 a month. And then
in 30 years,
right.
You'll have a timeshare.
Right.
Okay. We have to go.
Right.
But it's not a timeshare. It's use the interest on anything you want.
Exactly.
So.
I sold many annuities as a stockbroker.
Yeah, but were they variable or were they
there's one more dangerous thing about
University of Hawaii. They're required within their retirement. Hartford.
Okay, so there were 403B tax shelters.
Yeah, 403B.
Oh yeah, those are actually pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So boomers.
Hold on a second. They've got to go.
Hold on. Let me make my point.
We have to.
Boomers have 80% of the privately held wealth in America. The youngest boomer is 60. The oldest is 80. This is a demographic where some people at age 80 are mentally sharp, but as you go from 60 to 80, a lot of people become less mentally sharp, and you get them into a timeshare sales meeting, or you get a naive young person like somebody who's in the Army, and you throw a bunch of numbers at them and confuse them like it's like.
Wait a minute. Okay, my final thought is 1 week I had 3 attorneys call. One was a state of Michigan enforcement attorney. One was a California consumer protection attorney. One was a JAG officer in Washington State. All 3 of them got duped by the same timeshare company. Doug Shadell, AARP staff writer, wrote a book, Outsmarting the Scam Artists, explaining nobody's smart enough to outsmart a scam artist. He calls it 90% ether, guilt, fear, whatever they can come up with. But on that cheery thought, we're going to go and you should have seen it yesterday with all these millionaires walking by.
And they would stop and stare because I have props set up so it looks like a real studio.
And she's really good looking.
And so we have these props with microphones, with the phone. We had the whole prop thing going on, and people would stop and stare and watch us do TV interviews. And we had real stuff going on. We had real stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun because that they're trying to figure out who are they, what are they doing, and
yeah.
So yeah, we're causing.
And the guy protesting actually got a call from Wyndham on his way home after a year and a half.
He's been waiting a year and a half, fighting a year and a half. We finished interviewing his wife. They're driving home. He's driven the truck up and down the street in front of the place, and they stopped him.
Yeah.
They asked him not to drive there anymore. And then when they're driving home, they get a phone call.
Okay, we got to go.
Did you send them the link to the show? Did somebody send them the link? Maybe they did.
Oh, they saw Pod TV. Yeah. They could find it.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay.
Woo!
Okay. Oh, and who was the congressman that said get in some good trouble?
John Lewis.
Okay, so I told Kim, we don't want to get in trouble, but if we get in trouble, good trouble. Don, my husband, an 87-year-old, one of the sharp ones, he was waiting for a book from Richard Rohr of contemplative prayer, and it's called Tears of Things. I opened the first page, it said good trouble. And
so
I thought, God
we're
is
getting
with
into
us.
good trouble. But yeah, we're having a good
Get
time.
your bail money ready. Get your bail money ready.
Yeah,
Well,
we'll be calling.
maybe we got to have a Pod TV bail fund because there are bail funds that are out there,
Yeah,
and it'd be like that. So maybe we got to have a Pod TV.
Yeah, but if you're
bail fund.
traveling internationally, they're not going to let you bail out. Just like this couple that went there
That's
on their
true.
vacation, and they're not going to get out for 6 months. So
Bye.
be careful. Bye.
They've got to go and everything. I did have a question for Rick, and I think we've got Sasha with us as well. My question for Rick actually involves comedy. I know he was a writer and all along those lines. And when I was doing the world news earlier, there was a Indian comedian that apparently got in trouble because he told a joke about his politician. So I was wondering if you ever got in trouble like this gentleman did, Karnal Kamra, who is an Indian comedian who wouldn't apologize for a joke that apparently angered some Eknath Shinde supporters and everything. And I don't know what the joke was.
Well, if you remember, it's comedy that gave us Trump as president.
Right.
What's his name? Seth Meyers. Every year they have the correspondence ball, the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and the president tells jokes, and then they invite a professional comedian to roast everybody. And one year it was, under Obama, it was Obama and Seth Meyers, and they roasted Trump because Trump was doing birther stuff. This is back in 2012, 2013, saying that Obama wasn't a real American, that he was actually born in Kenya, and that was a big cover-up. And so they ripped into Trump. They told a bunch of jokes about what a blowhard idiot a-hole he is, and he was at the dinner, and he didn't like being roasted. And it was at that point. Now, he'd announced that he was running for president several times before, the year 2000, 1996. But he got so pissed at being joked about that he decided to run for real in 2016. So, yeah, comedy can get us in trouble.
You can definitely get this Indian gentleman in trouble and everything like that. The other story that I mentioned earlier, and I'd love to hear both you and Nick's thoughts about this, because this happened in the U.S. too. I forget that it also happens in other parts of the West as well. But apparently this death row inmate in Japan is now a part of the Millionaires Club because he got awarded $1.4 million after acquittal. And they translated it out to $85 for each day that he was in prison because apparently they finally exonerated him for whatever the crime was that he was accused of that led to this death row and everything. So what would you do if you had to spend all your life in prison in order to become a part of the Millionaire Club? And this is for everybody because they said that he got awarded $1.4 million. And like I said, that's adding up to $85.
It's a bad deal. Obviously, $85 a day is a terrible deal. And if you're going to get thrown in prison, you want to do it in a state that, like some of our southern states don't have deals. They don't have to pay you anything, even if they've kept you unjustly imprisoned for 25 years. Like Alabama, Mississippi, they have. So if you're going to get thrown in jail for something you didn't do it in like California, where you'll get some money at the end.
Yeah, I got one other prison question, and I'm going to ask Sasha a question because we got Ukraine, Russia, China coming up. But how do you manage to kill somebody when you're in prison already and you're there for a conjugal visit? Because that's apparently what happened in that other case that I mentioned as well. Because apparently this person has killed not one but two people while he was in prison, and at least one of those visits was a conjugal visit. Aren't they supposed to be keeping watch on folks if they're having those kind of visits?
A conjugal visit is where you have sex with your partner. Right. So you can't have a guard there while two people are banging. So yeah, the killing happened, while they were supposed to be having sex. They take you out of there's a trailer, like a double wide or probably a single wide, and they take you out of the prison part. You're still in the prison, but now you're in like a a crappy bedroom, and you have drinks with your significant other, and then you've got a couple hours to hook up. So, and yeah, they don't have a camera on you there while the sex is happening.
Well, apparently this was going on in your neck of the woods in California, and says it was the second woman who was strangled doing an overnight visit at that particular California prison. So yeah, apparently they would. At least you should knock on the door just to make sure that something's going on.
They should maybe give you one of those nurse buttons where you can, hit a button and maybe strap it to your wrist.
Right. So you can at least hit the emergency call and everything. I had not heard about Chernobyl in a while and everything. So that's what I was going to ask you, Sasha, because Chernobyl is now back in the news. It was in the news last week because apparently those drones are no joke. And even though they are small drones, they managed to attack Chernobyl and everything like that. So should we be concerned about nuclear fallout from these attacks, whether it's Chernobyl or some of the other nuclear plants that are in Russia? Because I remember the Chernobyl disaster of years ago and everything like that. But now this Ukraine drone has attacked Chernobyl, and there was even some fallout.
There's no risk from, like, Chernobyl isn't active. I mean, it's radioactive as hell, but it's not actively melting down into the ground and making like steam that's radioactive that's spreading over Sweden and all that stuff. They've got a big dome over it, a big sheet metal, canopy. And I think, a drone blew a hole in the canopy, but it's not like it's spewing smoke. It's like, or steam. It's just has a hole in it, and it's not leaking. So they can send in a crew and patch it back up.
What's your take on that?
The danger is if you disable an active reactor and it starts melting down into the fuel rods start melting down and hit the water table and create a constant supply of radioactive steam.
What's your take on that, Sasha?
My take is this: just released that 82% of Ukrainians want to continue the war even if US will pull out. They want to continue the war. They want to defeat Russia, soldiers the hell out of Ukrainian territory. That's as simple as that. And I don't understand what these clowns are doing in El Riyadh or somewhere else. They're talking about all kind of nonsense. Look at this idiot Witkov, who suggested that Ukraine acquired these 4 territories in Crimea as a result of Second World War. He repeats Putin's lunatics lies without even asking somebody or Wikipedia or just anything to confirm it or just to verify it. He just keeps repeating. This stupid developer, he thinks now that he's a diplomat. He now knows everything. He is the right hand of Donald Trump, a criminal who's been convicted and who has impeachments and nothing but just a con man. And he's got people who are just reminding him of himself and who are the same people. And American people who choose Trump, they could not even think of what he's going to do in international politics, where he alienated the US from NATO, from Europe, from everything. And Europe now is Thursday, there will be a big meeting now to organize their own army, and there will be no future dependence on US, and US will lose its commanding position in NATO. Maybe it doesn't need it, but it doesn't matter anymore. It needs or it doesn't need. Go the hell out to your North America, fight Canada and Greenland and Mexico or whatever else you want to fight. And I don't understand what's the big difference between what's happened when Hitler came to power and started to demand that he needs more space, whether Czechoslovakia or Holland later on, or so on, between what Trump is now talking about getting Greenland, getting Panama Canal, getting Canada. What's the difference? I don't see any. Okay?
Yep, definitely not that much of a difference in everything. And all along those lines, I know you'll be talking more about that on the show at noon. I mean, not noon, at 11, which is coming up very shortly, and everything along those lines and everything in that space. Rick, earlier you were talking about this notion of think tanks and all along those lines. So that's found this and all along those lines. So apparently there are tons of think tanks. I'm not even sure exactly what think tanks do and everything. And some of them are liberal and everything. I just think that they don't do as good a job of talking about their activities as the
one of the most famous think tanks is right in Santa Monica, over the hill from me. My father-in-law worked there. It's called the Rand Corporation,
and they were listed on this list.
Yeah, and it stands for Research and Development, and that's what they do. I don't think they're overly political. They hire a bunch of, like, my father-in-law was a CPA. He was good at, numerical analysis. So I'm sure he was doing math for them. They take a look at a problem. You can hire them, to consult, on some issue you have in your industry. It's literally a bunch of guys who are, and women who are good at analysis. Then you can hire them. And then there are the political ones, and it's the same deal. You get a bunch of people who are supposed to be good at analyzing stuff. And if it's a conservative organization like the Heritage Foundation, I don't know how many people work at the Heritage Foundation. It has to be hundreds, maybe thousands. And they do a bunch of bad stuff, like Project 2025, with some people there who have lunatic ideas, like that. Somebody at the Heritage Foundation says that in the U.S. we should return sex to its procreative purpose. That nobody should be having an orgasm unless there's a possibility of somebody getting pregnant from it. That person's a lunatic. But the Heritage Foundation also has people who do legitimate work, like they have an index of economic liberty. And they take a look at all.
Wait a minute, I have to back you up, Rick. So if you are, because at certain ages, I mean, man can have babies all the way up until like they're probably 90 or something like that, and everything. But they run the risk of health issues and everything, depending on what's going on and what the age of the young lady is and everything. But is this Heritage Foundation, from what you're reading, saying that after you have the children, you should just stop having sex altogether?
The foundation itself isn't saying that. Somebody who works there at some public appearance to some Bible thumping group said, yeah, we should need to return sex to what God intended it to be, which was a way to make babies. And yeah, so no jizzing, no extracurricular stuff, that if you're going to have, if somebody's going to, sploot, it should be into a vagina so you can maybe get a baby out of it.
And after you get to an age that, after you get to a certain age that there are no babies, there is no sex, is what I'm hearing you say.
Kinda, yeah. That's what. So that's ridiculous. But there are also legit people at Heritage who do this index of economic freedom that I refer to quite a bit. Which it takes now. I'm sure it's politically charged, but I haven't found a better thing if you want to look and see, where a country is in terms of, how strongly it supports capitalism. And then they have this other thing, which is this voter fraud index or database, because the Heritage says, well, we've got voter fraud all over the place. And that's why we have to, have all these voter suppression ID laws. But if you look at their own data, it goes against what they're arguing for. There've only been like 1,000 cases of voter fraud out of 2 billion total votes cast in the last 40 years. So even though they do some stuff you can use, even though they're a bunch of conservative, some lunatics.
Yeah, just really quickly. Hey, Nick, you kind of mentioned it earlier, and we only got 5 minutes. I do see Jonathan's in the other room. I don't see Ivan yet. So we know Jonathan will be on the show. We'll see if Ivan joins later on and everything like that. But how many times, because we had earlier Irene, and she's got this highly successful show with us and everything. And definitely Kim was joining from that protest as well. How many times have you been to these sucker meetings? Because I think I've told y'all before that I went to one of those one time. It was for an MLM. I've been to a couple of them. Like I went to, I think it was an Amway presentation, and definitely the one that has to do with one of the medical MLMs and everything, and definitely some of the travel ones. But the craziest one I ever went to was actually a pitch for female Viagra and everything. So it was actually done as an MLM. The company was an MLM company, and they were pitching a product that was basically the female equivalent of Viagra. So seeing somebody give a fake orgasm is definitely something you don't want to be in the middle of, because it can definitely throw you off and all along those lines. So I was just wondering, what's the craziest MLM or pitches that you've been to, whether it's a timeshare or MLM, which is those multi-level marketing things.
Yeah, I probably went to about a half a dozen of them, but prior to getting the pension industry, I spent 17 years doing seminars all over the country. So I was kind of in the speaking business from every major city in the United States, including in New York, where we used to do seminars at, the Hyatt Regency in Midtown Manhattan. And we'd spend $100,000 a week to put these seminars on to get people in the room. And then you figure out how many people are going to sell, et cetera, et cetera. There's a whole process. But basically, anytime you go to any sales presentation, there's what they call a load, the upfront load. And there's a cost. The problem with the timeshare industry is their cost structure is out the gazoo. It costs a lot of money to have that salesperson show up. It costs a lot of money to give all those giveaways. And they need to get it back. How do they get it back? The product is bad. And see, the thing is, it'd be better if they all went to a financial planning seminar, okay, seriously, and met with a good financial planner as opposed to a timeshare seminar. So my thinking is we can bypass that using the internet and give them the product that we end up selling into all of our qualified plans, which is a boring, I hate to say it's a boring tax-deferred annuity. It's got to be one of those boring investments in the world, but it gets you where you want to go. It makes money for you. It can stick money in your pocket, or you can just roll it up. And they don't take any commissions out of the annuity, which is amazing because it's not a variable annuity. It's what they call a fixed or equity index. It's like a CD. Yeah, Rick.
So as I said, I used to work on Hollywood Boulevard, which is the home of just a lot of ridiculous folks. And it's also the home of Scientology. The Scientology is rich in real estate, and they probably have 20 properties in and around, the Hollywood area. So you'll be walking down the street on Hollywood Boulevard, and a kid will come up to you, somebody in their 20s. And this is somebody who got roped into Scientology, and they say, "Would you like to find out more about yourself?" And you're like, "Okay, sure." And then they go and they give you an abridged version of the MMPI, the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory. And you mark, it asks you a bunch of questions about how you think, and and then then they give you a report card, and they say, "Well, you're strong in these areas, and then you're sucky in these areas. But if you try our program, which is Scientology, we can get you functioning at optimal levels in all these areas." At which point you go, "Thank you, but no." And then they get really frustrated, and they try to sell you and then you walk out.
Speaking of Scientology and everything, just really quickly, speaking of them, and we got only about a minute to go, weren't the Moonies kind of like Scientology? Because apparently that was the other story that I just mentioned.
Okay, so yeah, I got recruited by the Moonies too. I was in Boulder, which is the home, at various times has been the home of various cults. And I'm in a bookstore, and these two cute young, women walk up and start talking to me like they find me fascinating. And I'm like, okay. And like, wait, no, I remember that women don't find me fascinating. And I'm like, what's the deal here? And it turns out they were recruiting me to come to dinner at the Mooney place, which was just right, like across like a grassy field from my old junior high, because Boulder's small. Everything's right. Anyway, so I went. We had Swedish meatballs. And then there was singing after the dinner, and my stomach was full, and I was bored, and I fell asleep, and then I left, and I was not successfully recruited into the Moonies. But that's how they do it. That's there's a bunch of different come-ons, and one of them is the cute girl come-on.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
definitely use that commodity and everything.
So I guess we're going to be
This bad
coming out.
religion.
We're leaving.
Was-
We're,
Oh, oh, yeah. I think that was. We're out of time.